The conference room aboard the Imperial flagship Eternal Dominion was designed to intimidate. Crystal walls stretched 30 meters high, displaying the conquered worlds of the Valtheron Empire in shimmering holographic glory. Admiral Ketherick stood before the central display, his four eyes studying the data with growing disinterest. "These are the humans?" he asked, his translator converting his clicking speech into standard galactic. His aide, a younger officer named Priltok, nodded eagerly. "Yes, Admiral. They made first contact 6 months ago. Their vessel was crude but functional. They've requested membership in the Galactic Council." Ketherick's enlarged the technical specifications of human spacecraft. His mandibles clicked in what might have been amusement. The ships used fusion drives, technology the Empire had abandoned 4,000 years ago as inefficient. Their weapons were kinetic projectiles, actual physical objects hurled through space. It was like discovering a species that still used swords. "Energy shields?" Ketherick asked. "None, Admiral. They use physical armor, layers of metal and composite materials." Ketherick turned all four eyes toward his aide. "They fly through space in metal boxes, shooting rocks at each other?" "That appears to be accurate, Admiral." The Admiral returned his attention to the display. Humanity controlled one star system. 1. The Valtheron Empire controlled 17,000. These newcomers had nothing the Empire wanted and nothing the Empire feared. They were curiosities at best. "Recommend status?" Ketherick asked. "Probationary species, Admiral. Allow them to trade and observe. Restrict military expansion outside their home system. Standard protocol for primitive civilizations." Ketherick approved the recommendation with a wave of his primary manipulator. The holographic display updated, adding a small blue marker to the galactic map where the Sol system resided, one tiny dot among millions. 3 months later, Dr. Sarah Chen stood in the Galactic Council chambers on the neutral station of Concordia. The room was enormous, filled with representatives from hundreds of species. Some breathed oxygen like her. Others existed in methane atmospheres, contained within environmental suits. A few were energy beings that humanity's scientists still couldn't fully explain. Sarah felt very small and very human. The Valtheron representative, Ambassador Quental, gestured for her to approach the central platform. Sarah walked forward, her magnetic boots clicking on the metal floor. Earth's gravity was significantly higher than the station's standard, and she'd practiced this walk 100 times to avoid floating awkwardly. "Dr. Chen," Quental's voice boomed through the translation system, "you have been granted permission to present Earth's proposed military vessel designs. The Council wishes to ensure compliance with probationary species regulations." Sarah activated her presentation. A 3-dimensional model of a ship appeared above the platform. It looked sleek and modern by human standards, bristling with railgun batteries and missile pods. "The UEDF Vigilant-class destroyer," Sarah began. "Fusion-powered, crew of 120. Primary armament consists of electromagnetic acceleration weapons and high-yield chemical explosive delivery systems." She watched the Council members. Some seemed interested. Most appeared bored. The Valtheron ambassador barely glanced at the display. "Your armor composition?" Quental asked. "Titanium ceramic composite backed by a Whipple shield debris protection system and internal bulkheads." "And your defensive energy screens?" "We don't use energy shields, Ambassador. Our defensive philosophy relies on redundant armor layers and compartmentalization." A ripple of clicking and buzzing filled the chamber. Several species were communicating among themselves. Sarah recognized amusement in some of the sounds. Quental's posture shifted slightly. Sarah's cultural training identified it as condescension. "Dr. Chen, even the most primitive spacefaring species employ basic energy deflection. Armor is heavy, inefficient, it limits your acceleration and maneuverability. We're aware of the limitations, Ambassador. However, armor provides predictable protection. It degrades gradually rather than failing catastrophically. Our simulations suggest—" "Your simulations are based on limited experience," Quental interrupted. "The Council appreciates Earth's enthusiasm. Your design is approved for construction. Please limit production to defensive quantities appropriate for a single-system civilization." The dismissal was clear. Sarah bowed slightly and returned to her seat. She'd expected this reaction. The presentation had been designed to be underwhelming, conventional by galactic standards. It told the Council exactly what they wanted to hear. Humanity was primitive, compliant, and unthreatening. What the presentation didn't show was the construction happening on the dark side of Luna. Admiral Kethrix reviewed the human presentation later that evening in his private quarters. He'd watched dozens of primitive species join the Council during his 2 centuries of service. They all followed the same pattern: initial wonder at galactic technology, rapid adoption of standard designs, gradual integration into the existing order. Humanity would be no different. He filed his report with Imperial Intelligence, recommending the humans be monitored with routine surveillance only. No enhanced observation needed. No threat assessment required. They were builders of metal boxes who threw rocks. In a galaxy where warships could crack planets and traverse dimensions, humanity was barely worth mentioning. The file was marked negligible military concern and archived. On Earth, in the heavily shielded command center beneath Geneva, Fleet Admiral Zhang studied very different ship designs. These weren't meant for Galactic Council approval. These were meant for war. The Council bought it? Zhang asked. Sarah's face appeared on the holographic display transmitted from Concordia Station. Completely. They think we're obedient primitives building simple defensive ships. Good. How long until they inspect our facilities? The Valthorans? Never, probably. They haven't visited a probationary species home system in 300 years. They consider it beneath them. Zhang smiled without humor. Their arrogance is useful. What's your assessment of their military doctrine? Sarah pulled up tactical data. Exactly as we suspected. They rely almost entirely on energy shields for defense. Their ships are fast but fragile. Weapons are primarily directed energy. Plasma lances, particle beams, focused radiation. They haven't fought a peer conflict in 12,000 years, which means they've forgotten how to fight at all, Zhang observed. They've forgotten how to lose, Sarah corrected. They win through technological superiority and overwhelming force. They've never faced an opponent who could hurt them back. Zhang nodded slowly. Continue your diplomatic mission. Be humble, be grateful. Let them think we're learning from them. And the construction timeline? We'll have the first real fleet ready in 18 months. 2,000 ships. The Council thinks we're building 50. After Sarah's image vanished, Zhang turned to the massive display showing the Sol system. Construction facilities dotted every major body: Luna, Mars, the asteroid belt, the moons of Jupiter and Saturn. Humanity had learned a bitter lesson during the resource wars of the previous century. Never depend on a single point of production. If you wanted to survive, you built redundancy into everything. The ships under construction didn't look like the Vigilant-class destroyer Sarah had shown the Council. They were uglier, heavier, bristling with weapons that no galactic civilization had used in millennia. They were designed by engineers who'd studied every war humanity had ever fought, extracting lessons written in blood across 10,000 years. The Galactic Council saw humanity as primitive. Zhang saw that as an advantage. While the Empire's ships were masterpieces of elegant engineering, human vessels were brutal instruments of survival. They could lose half their systems and keep fighting. They could take damage that would vaporize Imperial cruisers and still complete their missions. Somewhere in the vast files of Imperial intelligence, humanity's threat assessment gathered digital dust. The word negligible glowed in soft blue text. Zhang looked at his fleet designs and allowed himself a cold smile. The Empire's mistake wasn't underestimating human technology. It was underestimating human experience. Humanity knew how to lose battles and still win wars. They knew how to be outmatched and survive. Anyway, the Valthorans were about to learn what 12,000 years of peace had cost them. They'd forgotten that the most dangerous species weren't the ones with the best weapons. They were the ones who'd learned how to keep fighting when their weapons failed. Captain Vornath of the Imperial Navy had patrolled the Kepler frontier for 7 years without incident. The region was boring, filled with mining operations and the occasional trade vessel. Nothing ever happened here. That was about to change. His cruiser, the Stellar Majesty, detected 3 human freighters crossing into disputed space. Vornath felt a spark of interest. Humans. The primitive species everyone talked about. He'd never actually encountered one of their ships before. Hail them, Vornath ordered. The communication channel opened. A human face appeared on the display. Female with short dark hair and a concerned expression. This is Captain Maria Santos of the freighter New Horizons. How can we help you? Vornath enjoyed this part. You have entered space claimed by the Valtheron Empire. Your vessels will shut down engines and prepare for inspection. Any cargo of value will be confiscated as tribute. The human's expression changed. Her eyes narrowed. This space isn't marked as Imperial territory on any Galactic Council charts. We're well within our trading rights. I am Imperial law in this region, Vornith said. You will comply or be destroyed. He expected immediate surrender. Primitive species always surrendered. The human surprised him. Negative. We're calling for assistance. New horizons out. The channel closed. Vornith stared at the blank screen in shock. Had she actually refused? He checked his tactical display. The 3 freighters had stopped but showed no signs of powering down. Instead, they were broadcasting a distress signal. Sir, his tactical officer said nervously, they're calling for help. From whom? The nearest council patrol is 3 days away. Vornith laughed. Charge weapons. Target their engines. We'll teach these primitives about Imperial authority. The Stellar Majesty's plasma lances began cycling to full power. It would take 90 seconds to reach combat readiness. Vornith used the time to review human ship specifications from the database. Light armor, no shields, kinetic weapons. This wouldn't even be a fight. His tactical officer suddenly jerked upright. Sir, contact! Ship just appeared at maximum sensor range. Appeared? Vornith demanded. From where? Unknown, sir. It wasn't there, then it was. I'm reading. It's a human warship. Destroyer class. Vornith pulled up the sensor data. The ship was indeed human, similar to the designs in the database but somehow different. Larger, more angular. It was accelerating toward them at speeds that seemed excessive for its size. Classification? Vornith asked. Unknown, sir. It doesn't match any registered human military vessel. Wait. I'm picking up a broadcast. A new face appeared on the display. Male Asian features wearing a dark blue uniform with silver insignia. This is Commander James Park of the UEDF destroyer Indomitable. You are ordered to power down weapons and withdraw from this sector immediately. Vornith felt his confidence return. A single destroyer against an Imperial cruiser? Human Commander, your ship is outmatched. We have superior shielding, firepower, and experience. Leave now and you will not be harmed. Commander Park's expression didn't change. This is your final warning. Power down and withdraw. The arrogance of these primitives. Vornith cut the channel. Tactical, target that destroyer. Fire when ready. Sir, they're not evading. They're still accelerating toward us. That was strange. Every species evaded incoming fire. It was basic combat doctrine. Vornith watched as his plasma lances fired. Brilliant streams of superheated matter crossing the space between ships. The weapon struck the Indomitable dead center. The destroyer vanished in a cloud of vaporized armor and explosive decompression. Vornith felt a moment of disappointment. That had been too easy. Then the cloud cleared. The Indomitable was still there, still accelerating. Vornith leaned forward, studying the sensor feed in disbelief. The human ship had taken a direct hit from weapons that should have cut it in half. He could see the damage. The entire forward section was scorched black, with armor plating peeled back and glowing red. But the ship was still functional. Still coming. Fire again, Vornith ordered. More plasma strikes hammered the human destroyer. Each hit tore away armor. Exposed internal structures created expanding clouds of debris. But the ship kept coming. It wasn't even trying to dodge. What is that thing made of? Vornith whispered. Sir, they're in weapons range. The Indomitable fired. Vornith had expected energy weapons. Instead, he watched in confusion as the human ship launched what appeared to be solid projectiles. Chunks of metal flying through space at impossible velocities. His tactical officer's voice climbed an octave. Sir, those projectiles are traveling at 0.27 light speed. The first round hit the Stellar Majesty's forward shields. The energy barrier, which had protected the ship through a dozen engagements, lasted exactly 3 nanoseconds. The relativistic projectile punched through the shield, through the forward armor, through the crew quarters beyond, and exited the far side of the ship. Vornith felt the deck shudder. Alarms screamed. Secondary explosions rippled through the cruiser's forward sections. Shields down. Forward compartments 1 through 7 are venting atmosphere. Another impact. Then another. The Indomitable was firing continuously, each round hitting with kinetic force that made mockery of Imperial defensive systems. One projectile struck the Stellar Majesty's secondary reactor and the ship's power dropped by 40%. Return fire. Vornith screamed, but the plasma lances were offline. The shield generators were offline. The primary engines were offline. In less than 2 minutes of combat, the Stellar Majesty had been reduced to a crippled hulk. The Indomitable finally stopped shooting. It glided past the Imperial cruiser, close enough for Vornith to see the damage his weapons had inflicted. The human ship looked like it had been through a shredder. Entire sections of armor were gone. Internal decks were exposed to space. By all rights, it should have been destroyed. But Vornith watched something that made his blood run cold. Small objects were emerging from the Indomitable's damaged sections. Thousands of them, maybe millions. They swarmed over the destroyed armor plating, and wherever they went, the metal began to move. The objects were rebuilding the ship. In real time, during combat, are those repair drones? His tactical officer asked. Vornith didn't answer. He was watching the Indomitable's armor regenerate, watching the torn metal knit itself back together through some technology the Empire had never encountered. The human ship had taken catastrophic damage and was fixing itself faster than he could destroy it. Commander Park's face reappeared on the display. Captain Vornith, your ship is disabled. We will not destroy you, however. If you ever threaten human civilians again, we will not be merciful. Do you understand? Vornith could only nod. The Indomitable accelerated away, its armor still regenerating, leaving the Stellar Majesty drifting among the debris. The 3 human freighters calmly resumed their course as if nothing had happened. Vornith immediately sent an emergency transmission to Imperial High Command. His hands shook as he recorded the message. Priority alert. Encountered human military vessel in Kepler Frontier. Ship designation Indomitable, destroyer class. Standard Imperial weapons proved ineffective. Human vessel employs kinetic weapons at relativistic velocities that bypass shields entirely. Armor regenerates using unknown nanotechnology. Tactical doctrine unlike anything in our databases. They don't evade. They don't retreat. They advance under fire and accept damage that would destroy any Imperial ship. He paused, trying to find words for what he'd witnessed. Sir, they don't fight like anyone we've ever encountered. They fight like they've done this before. Like they've lost before and learned from it. The files say they're primitive. The files are wrong. Whatever the humans are building, it's designed to survive. And if they have more ships like the Indomitable... Vornith stopped recording. He looked at his crippled cruiser at the stars beyond, and felt something the Valtheron Empire hadn't experienced in 12,000 years. Fear. 6 hours later, the emergency transmission reached Admiral Kethrix. He watched the combat footage 3 times, his 4 eyes widening with each viewing. Then he opened the file on humanity, the one marked negligible military concern, and began to read very carefully. Something was very, very wrong. Admiral Kethrix stood in the center of Imperial Naval Intelligence Headquarters, surrounded by holographic displays showing the Indomitable's combat performance. He had watched the footage 17 times now. Each viewing made him more disturbed. Play it again, he ordered. Start at the moment of first impact. The hologram flickered. The Indomitable appeared, accelerating directly into plasma lance fire. The first hit struck with enough energy to vaporize a small moon. Armor exploded outward in a spectacular cloud of debris. The ship emerged from the cloud, damaged but functional. Pause there, Kethrix said. The image froze. He walked around the hologram, studying the human destroyer from every angle. The damage was catastrophic by any standard measure, yet the ship had maintained structural integrity, power, weapons, and thrust. Analysis team explained this. Commander Velsha, head of the Technical Analysis Division, stepped forward. She was young for her position but had proven herself brilliant. Her findings would determine Imperial policy toward humanity. Admiral, we've completed our assessment. The results are troubling. Show me. Velsha activated a new display, breaking down the Indomitable's design layer by layer. The human ship doesn't use a single revolutionary technology. Instead, it employs multiple redundant systems that work together. Look here. She highlighted the armor. They use layered protection. The outer layer is ablative, designed to vaporize and carry heat away. Beneath that, ceramic composite to disperse energy. Then titanium structural plating. Then internal bulkheads separating every critical system. A single hit destroys one layer, but 5 more layers remain. Inefficient, Kethrix observed. All that mass reduces speed and maneuverability. Yes, sir. But consider the alternative. Our ships use energy shields powered by the main reactor. Destroy the reactor or overload the shield generators, and the entire defensive system fails instantly. The human approach is slower but more reliable. Kethrix clicked his mandibles thoughtfully. Continue. Velshaw highlighted the weapon systems. The railguns accelerate physical projectiles to relativistic speeds using electromagnetic force. The technology is ancient by our standards, but the execution is sophisticated. Each round carries the kinetic energy of a small fusion bomb. But energy shields should deflect solid matter. Should, yes. But our shields are designed to dissipate energy. Heat, radiation, plasma. A solid object moving at 0.27 light speed has too much momentum. The shields can't redirect it fast enough. The projectile punches through before the shield can respond. Another analyst, Priltok, added his findings. Admiral, we've also identified their regeneration technology. They use programmable nanobots, billions of them stored throughout the ship. When armor is damaged, the nanobots swarm the area and rebuild using raw materials from storage compartments. The Indomitable was literally healing itself during combat. Kethrix felt a chill run through his carapace. How long would it take to repair catastrophic damage? Based on observed regeneration rates, approximately 6 hours for major structural damage, 12 hours for critical systems. A human ship can be crippled in battle, withdraw for half a day and return fully functional. The implications were staggering. Imperial ships required weeks in dry dock for major repairs. Human vessels could fix themselves overnight. What about their combat doctrine? Kethrix asked. Velshaw pulled up tactical analysis. This is where it gets truly concerning, Admiral. They don't follow standard engagement protocols. Imperial doctrine, like most galactic military theory, emphasizes maneuverability and shield management. We dodge, we adjust shield frequencies, we maintain optimal firing range. Sensible tactics. For ships that can't take hits, yes. But watch what the Indomitable does. The footage played again. The human destroyer charged straight into weapons fire, accepted massive damage close to point-blank range, and fired until the Imperial cruiser was disabled. They don't care about taking hits, Velshaw explained. Their entire philosophy is built around absorbing damage and continuing the mission. They assume shields will fail, armor will breach, systems will malfunction, so they build in redundancy for everything. Backup reactors, backup weapons, backup life support, backup navigation. Some systems have 4 and 5 redundancies. Priltok brought up schematics comparing Imperial and human ships. Look at the difference, Admiral. Our cruiser has 1 main reactor and 1 backup. The human destroyer has 4 reactors of equal size. We have 1 shield generator. They have no shields but 12 independent armor sections. We have a single main computer core. They have 7 distributed computing nodes that can operate independently. Kethrix studied the schematics in growing horror. They build everything like it's going to be destroyed. Exactly, sir. Which means nothing can truly disable them. You'd have to destroy every single redundant system. And by that point, you've essentially vaporized the entire ship. The Admiral walked slowly around the holographic displays, his mind racing through scenarios. This isn't just different technology. This is a completely different way of thinking about warfare. Yes, sir. We've researched human history. They've been fighting wars against each other for their entire existence as a species. 10,000 years of continuous conflict. They've developed tactics through trial and error against opponents of equal capability. While we've had 12,000 years of peace, Kethrix said quietly. Against much weaker opponents? Yes. We win through technological superiority. We've never needed to optimize for survival because we've never faced a peer adversary. Kethrix turned to face his analysis team. How many ships do the humans have? Velshaw hesitated. That's unclear, sir. They showed the Council designs for 50 defensive vessels. But the Indomitable wasn't one of those designs. We've tried to scan their home system, but they've deployed sensor-blocking satellites around all major construction sites. Your best estimate. Based on resource extraction rates, power generation signatures, and industrial capacity, somewhere between 500 and 2,000 ships. The number hit Kethrix like a physical blow. 2,000? In 18 months? They build fast, Admiral. Their construction is modular. They manufacture standardized components on multiple worlds simultaneously, then assemble them in orbit. A human destroyer can be completed in 3 weeks once the components are ready. An Imperial cruiser takes 6 months. Yes, sir. Our ships are masterpieces of engineering. Beautiful, efficient, elegant. Human ships are brutal, ugly, but they can be mass-produced. Kethrix pulled up the galactic map, showing the vast Valtheran Empire and the single blue dot marking human space. Why haven't they expanded? Why stay in one system if they have this capability? We don't know, Admiral. Ambassador Quental reports that Dr. Chen and the other human diplomats remain polite and cooperative. They attend council meetings, follow trade regulations, and show no aggressive intentions. But they're also continuing to build ships, lots of ships. Kethrix ran tactical simulations in his mind. An Imperial fleet engaging human forces. The numbers looked bad. Even with superior energy weapons and faster ships, the Empire's forces would be ground down by sheer attrition. Human vessels would accept losses that would break any other species' morale, repair themselves, and keep fighting. I need to brief the Emperor, Kethrix said. Prepare a full tactical assessment. Include recommendations for doctrine changes. We need to develop countermeasures. Velshaw and Priltok exchanged glances. Admiral, Velshaw said carefully, we've been running combat simulations. Standard Imperial tactics against human forces. The results are not favorable. Show me. A new hologram appeared showing war games between Imperial and human fleets. Kethrix watched simulation after simulation. The patterns were consistent. Imperial ships would inflict massive damage initially, destroying human vessels with precise plasma strikes. But the humans would close distance, accepting catastrophic losses. And once they reached optimal range for their kinetic weapons, Imperial shields would fail to stop the relativistic projectiles. In simulation after simulation, the Imperial fleet was destroyed. We win if we maintain range, Velshaw explained. Our energy weapons are more effective at long distance. But humans are willing to charge through a killing field to get close. They lose ships, but enough survive to overwhelm us. They trade lives for victory, Kethrix said. They trade ships, sir. Their crews survive more often than ours. Those redundant systems and compartmentalized design mean human personnel have time to evacuate even from heavily damaged vessels. Our ships tend to experience catastrophic failures. When an Imperial cruiser dies, everyone aboard dies with it. Kethrix felt something unfamiliar settling in his thorax. It took him a moment to identify the emotion. Dread. What do you recommend? He asked. Velshaw looked uncomfortable. Diplomatically, don't antagonize them. The humans haven't shown aggressive tendencies toward the Empire. They seem content to develop their own space. And if conflict is unavoidable, fight them on our terms. Long-range engagements. Use our speed advantage to avoid close combat. Develop new weapons specifically designed to counter their tactics. And most importantly, she hesitated. Speak freely, Commander. Don't underestimate them again, sir. The file marked them as negligible. That was a mistake that nearly cost Captain Vornith his life. These humans fight like they've been preparing for what? The Imperial throne room on Valtheran Prime was a monument to conquest. Pillars of crystal rose from floors inlaid with precious metals stripped from 1,000 worlds. Emperor Thexril sat upon the eternal throne, carved from a single massive diamond, while his court gathered below. Admiral Kethrix stood before the throne, his formal armor gleaming, his heart's pounding with anxiety. He'd prepared his briefing carefully, but he already knew it wouldn't matter. Speak, the Emperor commanded. Your Majesty, the human species presents an unprecedented threat to Imperial interests. Their military capabilities exceed initial assessments by several orders of magnitude. I recommend immediate diplomatic engagement to establish firm boundaries and prevent conflict. The court erupted in clicking laughter. Noble houses who'd conquered species across the galaxy found the idea of human threats absurd. Duke Shenvor, master of the mining guilds, stepped forward. Majesty, if I may. The humans occupy territories rich in rare minerals, territories we could exploit. Instead of fearing them, we should simply take what we want. A show of force will remind them of their place. Other nobles voiced agreement. The humans controlled valuable resources. The humans had rejected proper tribute. The humans needed to be taught imperial authority. Emperor Thexrel raised a manipulator for silence. Admiral, you fought these creatures before. You filed reports calling them negligible. Now you claim they're dangerous. Which is it? Kethrix chose his words carefully. Majesty, I was wrong. We all were. The humans deliberately misled us. They showed the Council primitive ship designs while building something entirely different. Their true vessels employ tactics and technologies specifically designed to counter Imperial advantages. One cruiser was damaged, the Emperor said dismissively. Captain Vornath was careless. This proves nothing. Your Majesty, I've run extensive combat simulations. Simulations are not reality, Admiral. The Valtheron Empire has crushed countless species who thought themselves strong. The humans will be no different. The Emperor gestured to Duke Shenvor. Prepare an ultimatum. The humans will dismantle their fleet and cede mining rights to the disputed territories, or face corrective action. Kethrix felt his thorax tighten with fear. Majesty, I strongly advise against— Your concerns are noted, Admiral, but the Empire does not bow to primitives. Dismissed. 3 weeks later, the ultimatum reached Earth through official Galactic Council channels. Fleet Admiral Zhang read it twice in his Geneva headquarters, then smiled coldly. They actually did it, he said to his staff. They issued an ultimatum. Dr. Sarah Chen returned from her diplomatic posting, shook her head. I warned them through back channels. Kethrix tried to warn his own emperor. Nobody listened. The council? Split. Half the species think the Empire is overreaching. The other half are afraid to oppose them. We're on our own. Zhang pulled up fleet deployment status. Green indicators filled the display. All ships report combat ready. We have 2,100 vessels distributed across the Sol system. The Empire is sending their 7th Grand Fleet, Sarah said. 500 ships, including their newest battlecruisers. They're designed to intimidate. Will it work? Sarah looked at Zhang with an expression somewhere between fear and grim determination. It would work on any sane species. But we're humanity. We've never been very good at backing down. Zhang activated the communication system. All fleet commanders, this is Zhang. We have incoming Imperial forces. Execute defensive formation Omega-7. Rules of engagement: do not fire unless fired upon. But if they fire, he paused. Make it count. The 7th Grand Fleet emerged from hyperspace at the edge of the Sol system in a display of overwhelming force. 500 Imperial warships arranged in perfect formation, their hulls gleaming in the distant sunlight. Grand Admiral Zelenor commanded from the flagship Infinite Justice, supremely confident in his mission. Scan for human vessels, he ordered. The tactical display lit up with contacts. Zelenor leaned forward, counting. 10 contacts, 20, 50, 100. The numbers kept climbing. Sir, I'm reading 2,043 human ships. Zelenor's confidence wavered. That can't be correct. Run the scan again. The numbers remained the same. The Sol system was filled with human warships waiting in formation. But it wasn't just the quantity that disturbed Zelenor. It was the variety. His tactical officer highlighted ship classifications. Sir, they have dozens of different designs. Destroyers, cruisers, carriers, and I don't know what to call these. Some are enormous, covered in armor thicker than our shields. Others are tiny, barely larger than fighters. Some aren't showing up on sensors at all. We only detect them by their gravitational signatures. Zelenor pulled up visual feeds. The human fleet was unlike anything in Imperial experience. The ships weren't uniform or elegant. Each design seemed purpose-built for a specific role. Heavy fortresses bristling with weapons, sleek corvettes that had to be impossibly fast, massive carriers launching swarms of smaller craft. Establish communication, Zelenor ordered, his voice less certain than before. A human face appeared on the display. Asian features, gray hair, admiral's insignia. I'm Fleet Admiral Zhang of the United Earth Defense Force. You've entered Sol system without permission. State your intentions. Zelenor drew himself up, trying to project authority. I am Grand Admiral Zelenor of the Imperial 7th Grand Fleet. We are here to enforce the Emperor's ultimatum. You will power down your vessels and prepare to receive boarding parties. Your fleet will be dismantled, and you will cede mining rights as ordered. Zhang's expression didn't change. No, the simple refusal stunned Zelenor. You refuse? This is humanity's home system. Our worlds, our people, our sovereignty. You come here with threats and demands. We don't respond well to threats, Admiral. You have one opportunity to leave peacefully. I suggest you take it. Zelenor felt anger replace his uncertainty.
You're outnumbered.
Our ships are superior. You will comply or be destroyed. Are you certain about that? Zhang asked calmly. Suddenly, the tactical display exploded with new contacts. Ships that had been hiding, powered down and invisible to sensors, came online simultaneously. Zelenor watched in horror as the count climbed past 3,000. 4,000. The humans had been hiding half their fleet. Admiral, his tactical officer said, voice trembling, I'm detecting weapon systems unlike anything in our database. gravitational anomaly generators, antimatter warheads, molecular disassemblers, and those carriers are launching drones, thousands of them. Zelenor stared at the display. His 500 ships, which had seemed overwhelming minutes ago, now looked desperately inadequate. The human fleet surrounded them in 3 dimensions. Some ships were close enough to fire. Others hung at extreme range. More waited in orbit around Earth, Mars, the asteroid belt, Jupiter's moons. "They've fortified everything," his tactical officer whispered. "Every moon, every planet, every major asteroid has weapon platforms. The entire system is a fortress." Zhang's voice cut through Zelenor's panic. "Admiral, I want you to understand something. You came here to intimidate us, to make us afraid. But humanity has been afraid before. We've faced extinction dozens of times in our history. Climate disasters, nuclear wars, asteroid impacts, engineered plagues. We survived because we learned to prepare for the worst." The human admiral gestured, and the display shifted to show ship schematics. Every vessel you see was designed with one assumption: that we'd face an enemy stronger, faster, and more advanced than us. We built these ships to take punishment and keep fighting. We designed them to win even when victory seemed impossible. "You're bluffing," Zelenor said, but he heard the weakness in his own voice. "Am I? Your Admiral Kethrix encountered one of our destroyers in the Kepler frontier. One ship crippled an Imperial cruiser in 2 minutes. You have 500 ships. We have 4,000. Would you like to test which of us is bluffing?" Zelenor looked at his tactical display again. The human formations were precise, professional. These weren't random civilians with weapons. This was a coordinated military force that had planned for exactly this scenario. "I need to consult with Imperial Command," Zelenor said. "You have 10 minutes, Zhang replied. "After that, we'll assume hostile intent." The channel closed. Zelenor sat in his command chair, feeling the weight of 500 ships and 50,000 lives under his responsibility. He'd come here expecting easy submission. Instead, he'd walked into a trap that could destroy his entire fleet. "Tactical assessment," he ordered quietly. His officers exchanged glances. Finally, Commander Shenpek spoke. "Sir, if we engage, we lose." "The simulations aren't even close. They have overwhelming numerical advantage, defensive positions, and weapons designed specifically to counter our tactics. We might destroy a few hundred human ships, but they'll annihilate us. Recommendations? Withdraw, sir. Report back to Imperial Command. Let them decide how to handle this." Zelenor made his decision. He'd rather face the Emperor's anger than lead 50,000 soldiers to pointless deaths. "All ships prepare for hyperspace jump. We're leaving." As the 7th Grand Fleet fled the Sol system, EV, the Galactic Council chamber had never been so crowded. Representatives from 300 species packed the galleries, while the primary delegates sat in their designated positions. The air hummed with translation devices working overtime as everyone spoke at once. Ambassador Quental of the Valtheron Empire stood at the central podium, his posture radiating outrage. "The Council must sanction humanity immediately. They have militarized beyond all reasonable defensive needs. 4,000 warships. This threatens galactic peace and stability." Dr. Sarah Chen sat calmly in Earth's delegate seat, waiting her turn to speak. She'd known this moment would come since the 7th Fleet's retreat. The Council speaker, a gaseous being named Othras who floated in a containment sphere, called for order. "Ambassador Quental has formally accused humanity of excessive militarization and violation of probationary species protocols. Dr. Chen, you may respond." Sarah rose and walked to the podium. Every eye sensor and visual organ in the chamber focused on her. She felt the weight of humanity's future on her shoulders. "Thank you, Speaker. The Valtheron Empire is correct that Earth has built a large fleet. What they fail to mention is why." She activated a holographic display showing the Imperial ultimatum. 3 weeks ago, the Empire demanded we dismantle our defenses and surrender sovereign territory. They sent 500 warships to enforce this demand. Murmurs rippled through the chamber. The smaller species looked disturbed. Everyone knew the Empire's history of forcing concessions through military threat. Sarah continued. "When we refused, the Imperial fleet scanned our system and discovered we'd prepared for exactly this scenario. Rather than engage in combat that would have killed thousands on both sides, Grand Admiral Zelenor made the wise decision to withdraw." "You threatened an Imperial fleet," Quental shouted. "We defended our home," Sarah corrected calmly. There's a difference. The Empire entered our system without permission, made demands backed by military force, and was surprised when we said no. Would any species here have reacted differently? Council Speaker Authoress gestured for silence. This council must consider the broader implications. Humanity, explain your military buildup. 4,000 ships seems excessive for defensive purposes. Sarah nodded. Speaker, I need to provide context. May I request Admiral Kethrix be called to testify? His analysis of human military doctrine is the most comprehensive in Imperial records. The request was unusual, but Authoress agreed. Within minutes, Admiral Kethrix stood beside Sarah at the podium. His four eyes met hers briefly, and she saw something unexpected there. Respect. Admiral, Authoress said, you've studied human military capabilities. What is your assessment? Kethrix activated his own display, showing combat footage and technical data. Speaker, humanity represents a unique case in galactic history. Most species develop technology in isolation, then encounter the galactic community and adopt standard approaches. Humans are different. He showed images of Earth's history, ancient warfare with swords and shields, industrial wars with tanks and aircraft, nuclear weapons, space combat simulations. Humanity has fought wars continuously for 10,000 years, not conquest wars against primitive species, but pure conflicts where both sides had comparable technology. They've experienced defeat, victory, stalemate, and everything between. This created a military philosophy unlike anything we've encountered. A delegate from the Korath Confederacy spoke up. Surely the Empire has far more experience. You've conquered hundreds of worlds, Against inferior opponents, Kethrix admitted, and the chamber fell silent. It was the first time an Imperial officer had publicly acknowledged this. We win through technological superiority. We've never fought a sustained war against an equal adversary. Humans have fought nothing but equal adversaries. Every weapon, every tactic, every ship design comes from lessons learned through failure. He pulled up schematics comparing Imperial and human vessels. Look at the difference in philosophy. Imperial ships are elegant, efficient, optimized for victory. Human ships are brutal, redundant, optimized for survival. We build ships that win battles. They build ships that survive wars. Sarah stepped forward. May I explain what Admiral Kethrix means? At Authoress's gesture, she continued. Humanity learned a lesson that most galactic species never needed to learn. We learned how to keep fighting when we're losing. She showed footage of human history, cities rebuilt after bombing, nations recovering from defeat, species survival after near-extinction events. Every human ship has multiple reactors because we know reactors fail.
Every hull has redundant armor because we know armor gets penetrated.
Every system has backups because we assume the primary will be destroyed. We don't build for the perfect scenario. We build for when everything goes wrong. A delegate from a small herbivore species asked nervously, but 4,000 ships? Isn't that preparation for conquest, not defense? 4,000 ships across 8 planets, dozens of moons, and thousands of asteroid habitats, Sarah corrected. Our population is 12 billion. We have 1 warship for every 3 million citizens. The Empire has 17,000 systems and maintains 40,000 warships. That's a similar ratio. Quental tried to interrupt, but Sarah continued, her voice growing stronger. The real question isn't why we built so many ships. It's why the Empire is afraid of them. The chamber erupted in noise. Sarah waited for silence, then delivered her conclusion. The Empire has ruled through overwhelming force for 12,000 years. They've grown accustomed to instant compliance. When we refused to surrender, they didn't know what to do. Their entire strategy depends on enemies who give up quickly, but humanity doesn't give up. We can't. We've faced too many extinctions to ever surrender easily. She looked directly at Quental. The Empire isn't afraid of our ships. They're afraid of what our ships represent. They're afraid of fighting an enemy who's willing to take losses and keep coming. An enemy who's optimized for long wars, not quick victories. An enemy who's learned that survival matters more than elegance. Authoress considered her words carefully. Dr. Chen, does humanity intend to expand militarily beyond Sol system? No, Speaker. We have no interest in conquest, but we will defend our sovereignty absolutely. Any species, including the Empire, is welcome to trade with us, establish diplomatic relations, and share technology. But no one dictates terms to humanity at gunpoint. Not anymore. Quental's voice was cold. The Empire will not tolerate this disrespect. Sarah turned to face him directly. Ambassador, with respect, the Empire needs to understand something. You've had peace for 12,000 years because you've had no equals. We've had war for 10,000 years because we've had only equals. You win through superiority. We win through perseverance. If conflict comes, it won't be the quick victory you're used to. Ketherick spoke up, surprising everyone. She's right. I've run every simulation. In a direct confrontation, the Empire would eventually win through sheer size. But the cost would be devastating. Hundreds of thousands of casualties, years of warfare, economic collapse, and even if we won, humanity has established protocols to rebuild from near extinction. They've done it before. They could do it again. The chamber fell silent. An Imperial admiral publicly stating that humanity could survive an Imperial assault was unprecedented. Othrys floated in his containment sphere, processing all the information. Finally, he spoke. This council cannot ignore humanity's capabilities. However, we also cannot ignore that humanity has taken no aggressive actions. They built defenses, which is every species' right. They refused an ultimatum that many here would also have refused. He turned to face the full council. I propose a compromise. Humanity will be granted full membership in the Galactic Council, with complete military rights. In exchange, they will share their defensive technology with interested species and commit to non-expansion beyond their current territorial claims for 20 standard years. Sarah considered quickly. Full membership meant protection under Council law. It meant the Empire couldn't simply invade without Council approval. The non-expansion clause was reasonable since humanity had no expansion plans anyway. Earth accepts, she said. The vote was close, but ultimately passed. Over Valtheron objections, humanity became a full Council member. Later that evening, Sarah found Admiral Ketherick in one of the station's observation lounges, watching the stars. Thank you for your testimony, she said, sitting beside him. You didn't have to support us. Ketherick's mandibles clicked softly. I spoke truth. The Empire needs to hear it even if they don't want to. They sat in comfortable silence for a moment. Finally, Ketherick asked the question that had haunted him for months. Dr. Chen, be honest. Could you have defeated the 7th Fleet? Sarah was quiet for a long time. Yes. We would have taken heavy casualties, maybe lost 1,000 ships. But yes, we would have won. Our entire strategy was designed for that exact scenario. And if the Empire had sent its full might, all 40,000 ships, then we would have fought for as long as possible, evacuated civilians to deep space installations and rebuilt afterward. It would take decades, maybe centuries, but we'd survive. We always survive, Admiral. That's what humans do. Ketherick shuddered slightly. Your species terrifies me.